Hello, happy Saturday. Hope everybody's doing great, intuitive viewers. I just thought it might be a good time to just kind of put a video out there. I've been getting some information and I try to put things out once I start getting some downloads or whatever you want to call them, little hits here and there. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about that, but I first wanted to just thank everybody for um, what we have in the community section on the main page. We have announcements I'll do and things, for the club that I'll put up and things like that. But we have constant kind of a prayer roll going, and I'll put people who are asking for prayers, I'll put them there. And we recently had a family friend that needed some prayers. I am telling you, it is so powerful. I just want to thank everybody that pays attention to that writes in, that says the prayers, sends love and light. They do, some people do remote healings. It's powerful. I've only put it on for myself, for, things for my own family a few times. And it is, you feel it. You feel that energy coming, that love and that extra bit of energy coming towards you. And it's very, very powerful. And I've shared those videos of orbs when I've done, prayers or apologies or the healing video, and you can see what's happening with the orbs, with the energy, that it moves energy, it does something. And I just want to let you know how powerful that is. And I just want to thank you so much for the continued kind of prayers. It was just so, I mean, of course I cry because I feel everything anyway, but it was just so powerful and so sweet. And the prayers were just so kind and heartfelt, and you could just feel every single one. And I just want to let you know how powerful prayer is, whether it's for you or for someone else. It really is such a powerful tool that we have as human beings here in this dense environment. It is like sending up a hot air balloon, and it's really amazing. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say that real quick. I did have a few things I wanted to let you know. A few little hits that I got about a few things. And I did want to talk about this Russian explosion that I was talking about before, because the more that I kept seeing different little pieces of visions, and I'm going to kind of leave it up to you in a way, but I'm going to say what I'm kind of feeling now. And there may be literal like explosions in Russia, that have to do with, the war and people being dissatisfied and things like that. Because I think that I'd said that if you looked at the people who did it, they were Russian on paper. On paper they were Russian, but they were kind of, their hearts were not, in it right now. Or maybe they were involved in some kind of other cause or something. But the more information that I got, the more I kind of felt like it could also be a message that's a little broader, and it's about kind of Russia and the Russian people kind of being a little bit of a ticking time bomb. I did kind of I don't know if you call it remote viewing. I'm not sure what you call it, but when I go into people's energy, I'll go into people's energy and I'll kind of feel what they feel. I think, you've seen me do that before with Donald Trump or whatever. And I'll be able to, feel kind of motivations or feel where they're going next. It's a whole feeling and moving into energy as an empath. And then, I can also do this with places or with atmospheres sometimes. And every psychic or medium or empath or intuitive have their specialty. Even within that, they're not just in a medium. They might be an evidentiary medium where they're really good at pulling out names, or they're really, really good at talking about what happened when the person passed away or something. They usually have something that just comes easier to them. And this is one of the things that just happens to come easier. And for me, I think it's because I'm mainly an empath. But going into that energy of Russia, because I thought, well, what if I go into the energy of the place and just see what the heck's going on here? It felt like, well, and I'm getting chills right now, so I know this is right. Do you remember the summer of 2020 when it felt like a powder keg? It felt like something was about to go off. And then George Floyd happened and everybody just hit the streets and it was done. And there were riots and people were going, there was the whole thing in all the different cities with all the different like little standoffs with police and stuff. It felt like that. It felt like right before that. And so I don't know if this is a long period of time we're looking at or a short period of time, but that's what the energy felt like. It felt like the summer of 2020. It felt like people were at their limit. And I think part of it is that you don't have you don't have COVID and shutting people down and shutting people up. You have a government doing it, but same diff, right? Same thing. It's still clamping people down in a moment when they're really afraid. They really want their voice to be heard, and they're feeling helpless, right? So that's what the energy felt like. And then I started seeing things like, once I was in that space, I started seeing those visions again of the prisons opening up and people in the streets. And I thought, of course, it dawned on me at that moment that of course they would open up the prisons, because in those prisons, I'm sure there are criminals and hardened criminals, but a lot of them are just family members and people that spoke out against the war or spoke out against Putin, or Putin didn't like them, or a lot of them are political prisoners, basically just in there because. So I'm like, of course that would be one of the first things they do is open up the prisons. But it did feel like, just like George Floyd, it felt like there was something that tipped the scale. And I know psychics have been getting something that he oversteps the line, that Putin oversteps in some way. And I think that we keep thinking that it's something in Ukraine. It could be something in Russia. It could be something like a forced draft or something like that, where he just goes over the line enough where people are like, they just freak out. And it's like, enough, because you can do this to people for a while, right? You can hold them in for a while, you can control them for a while, but eventually, usually, especially when they do have access to the news and the stuff, and they're experiencing it firsthand, their sons are disappearing and they're not coming back, and their relatives or whatever are leaving the country because they don't want to be here. It's happening to them in this space, right? Where things have been pretty, they were still corrupt government, but pretty peaceful before. So it's really, but it's causing a lot of fear and anxiety and worry and nervousness. And I think you can only keep people under those circumstances for so long, right? China's finding that out. America found that out. It's, yeah, you can only do that to people for so long before they snap or need to let it out, let it, be heard. So when I'm thinking of explosion, I'm thinking literal explosion, and I'm thinking of it too literally. It could be something that ignites a kind of political explosion, or people kind of having, just saying enough, basically. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I have no timeline on this. I have no, nothing like that. I just felt it. I and it was so funny because I recognized the energy. Like I said, it was that 2020, summer 2020 energy that I was feeling, of just something's about to blow. You could just feel the tension. So, so there's that. Okay. And then I also wanted to talk about the fact that the smaller crowds at CPAC, right? And I know that at the beginning, and I'm sure Trump will find a way to fill every single seat. They'll pay people or they'll do whatever they have to do. But I asked my guides about this, and I said, if these people are so, powerful, and they're in the power seats, and everybody's thinking, to, by their standards, or from their mouths, everybody's loves them so much. Why is it that CPAC is, a third full, a quarter full? What is going on here? And they started showing me that although it's subtle, and although it's in small ways, that people aren't in that same energy they were in 2016 and even in 2020. They're not, they've shifted a little bit, and the energy has shifted a little bit. So they were showing me stuff, and I'm getting chills again when I'm talking about this. So I'm getting it right. They're probably like, finally, she's getting something right. But I think that what it is that that energy is still there, that Trump energy, that we hate everything and everybody, and everything's stupid, and we don't like gay people, we don't like these people, and that energy is still there, and it's still in places like that. When they're there, that energy kind of grows and is there. But people aren't, there are a lot of people that aren't comfortable in that energy anymore, so they don't go to the events. And that is also where the energy is most concentrated, right? So they're not comfortable in that anymore. And so they're pulling away. They're just not going. And they may not understand why. They may think, well, I still like Trump, but I don't feel like going. Or, I'm behind Marjorie Taylor Greene 100%, but I don't really feel like going this year. And it's a slow kind of backing up, whether they realize it or not, which is it's great. And it's taking some time. I'll admit it's taking some time just for the regular, and we're just talking regular people. We're not talking about the politicians and things like that. We're talking about just regular people that have been kind of in this movement and behind this movement. So they may not fully understand why, but they're slowly kind of backing up from it, because their energy is changing, their energy is shifting. And they were saying that part of what's shifting it is oh, sorry about this horn keeps going off. So sorry about that. I don't know whose horn it is, but it keeps going up. But part of it is having different leadership. Just having different leadership in our country, there is a kind of trickle down effect when it comes to whatever you want to call it, vibration, frequency, energy. It moves things in a different way. And it can be subtly, it can be small ways, but it's there. And the same thing happened when Trump was there. It can shift the energy and change. And there we saw, really kind of big shifts and weird shifts and stuff. But they're saying it works the other way too. When somebody normal is in charge and things are happening normally, and things are kind of some good things are happening, and he's positive. He's a positive role model, and he says positive things, and he talks about working together and stuff. And just that energy alone at the top and being heard by everybody, it breaks up that kind of stagnant, more heavy duty energy we've been kind of living in. The cracks are happening. And so they're pointing that out as kind of evidence, as one of the cracks, that people just aren't showing up in the numbers they once were. Maybe there's pockets they will, in some, hillbilly town USA, or whatever, hillbilly mountain and hillbilly town USA, they all congregate there. But for things like this, where it's like in Washington, D.C. or just normal place, it's just not going to be the same. It's just not going to be the same. Isn't that interesting? So we're making progress. And it's kind of also evidence to show that we're moving forward, even though they want to bring up that, the drag queens are taking over or something, some crazy nonsense. And that would be fabulous, by the way. I would be all for that. But, but, they want to have some kind of weird thing that they're on this week. And yeah, it's just not, it's just we're moving on. We're moving on. They're going to keep, and the other thing I wanted to point out, is that sometimes it can be very, it can feel like it's everybody because it's 20 really, really loud, obnoxious people. And I like to use the example of when those 5 people were chasing Lindsey Graham through the airport. To him, in the middle of it, them all shouting at him, it probably felt like 50 people, but it was like we could see it was only like 4 or 5 people, and he came back all shook and scared and everything. But it's just a few very loud people, and it can seem like a lot, but it's not. And their numbers were shrinking way back when. I mean, I was talking about this way back when in 2020, and now the numbers have just dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. And like I said, part of it is even something they don't really they're not really consciously aware of. It's just something that's happening that they're responding to, but they're not really realizing that that's what they're responding to. They may just think, well, I don't really feel like going to that this year, or I don't really, feel the need to, watch Trump and his rally today, but the energy is shifting, and that's what's happening. So, haha, haha, it's happening. So, uh, anyway, and then I wanted to also talk about, and the Murdoch guy got, all I knew was that my guys kept saying he's never getting out of prison. That's all they kept saying. And I'm like, okay, he's never getting out of prison. So and boy, did they mean he's never getting out of prison. So anyway, that happened. But people were also asking about Ukraine and how long this is going to go on, what's going on. And like I said, I think we all have kind of a feeling that Putin may do something to tip something, and that may make a difference. But let me kind of do what what I'm going to do. I had a suggestion to look at Ukraine 5 years in the future. And I think I'm going to do that, actually. I'm just going to do it live. So everything may not come through that um, the guys want us to know. And 5 years is loose, right? I mean, I'm saying 5 years, but that's about the timetable we're looking at. But time is so weird, and so we slow it up, and we speed things up too. There in the spirit realm, there's no such thing. Time is an earthly thing. And so it's just happening to them. For us, it's like, oh, come on. It's, it's been 3 months already. But they give us the probability. They can see it so clearly, the probability of where it's going. And then there are other smaller probabilities too. So let's ask, we're going to ask my guides, what does Ukraine look like 5 years in the future? What does it look like? What pictures, what can you tell us about Ukraine 5 years in the future? Okay. So I'm hearing territories, and I'm hearing NATO. So they're in NATO, and they have territories, or it's like they've expanded. And I'm hearing NATO very clearly. So they're part of NATO. World uh, world rebuilding effort. I feel like there's a world rebuilding effort to rebuild. Putin is dead. Russian president. Um, democratically elected. Peace and life treaty. There's a peace and life treaty. Something about peace. I think I'm getting that right. Peace and life. It has to do with it has to do with that's okay. I'm just going to say it has to do with growing. I'm getting chills again. Growing trees, gardens, flowers, like growing nature and getting rid of weapons. Peace and life treaty. There's something about Russian borders. Something about the Russian borders that's different. The borders of Russia are different. Soldier memorial, something about a soldier memorial. It crosses the borders. I feel like it starts in Ukraine and ends. It's like it goes through all the countries. It's a soldier's memorial. There's some kind of like real like partnership here. And I feel like they blended some things like a brotherhood kind of thing, or a sister brotherhood kind of thing, almost like cousin countries in a way. Yeah, I'm getting chills with that. I still see Zelensky there. I don't know if he's the head of I don't know if he's the head of Ukraine. I'm kind of feeling like he's not, but he's there. So he's meant to survive this war. Things can, energy can change and things can be different, but this is where it's where they are right now. The roads that they're on, this is where it's going. Okay. So I'll have to go back and see everything I said. Some things I remember and some things I won't when I do just like that. It's more like not a pure channel, but it's a little more like channeling than just regular reading. But interesting. At least the things I remember. I'll have to go back and watch and see what else is said. And this is all for entertainment purposes only, right? It's just my crazy thoughts in my head. Okay, and as far as the presidential election, Trump could run. If he runs, he's going to lose. He just there isn't enough support for him to win. There's just not. And even when he had like support, he had control of the voting machines. He had control of the mail. He had control of everything. He still couldn't win. He still lost massively. So he'll lose. But I've never seen him or Ron DeSantis getting I haven't been able to put my finger who does get it, but it doesn't. it always feels like somebody kind of Christian-y, kind of person, kind of bland to me, almost like kind of a cardboard. It could, I mean, I don't think it's my parents, but it could be like a Pompeo or somebody like that. But it just feels like somebody who's just a little bit bland. Although Ron DeSantis is that way. He has no personality whatsoever. So, but I've just never seen either of them. So either I don't want to see it, it's like it's too ugly to see. But I also feel like it's neither here nor there almost, because I definitely see Joe Biden getting in again. I do feel like for some reason I think I've said that before, he only goes about halfway through his term. But I feel like but I don't feel like it's anything. Feel like it maybe just for, I don't know, maybe he just gets tired and doesn't want to do it anymore. I'm not sure. But and then I saw a male come in as VP. So yeah, so don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. It's just a lot of noise, nonsense. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that gives you some info. And if you guys want to, our beginning mediumship class starts Monday. So if you want to take it, I think we have a few spots left, I want to say. If you're interested though, check, because sometimes last time we extended it a couple people. So even though we want to keep it small, sometimes we'll make those concessions if you really want to do it. And if you're really interested, but that's our last beginning class for a while. So if you want to get in on one of the beginning classes, that would be the one. All right, guys, take care. Thank you again for the prayers. If you're interested in if you need prayers for yourself, just let me know. Just send me an email and I'll put on the prayer list. And all of you, thank you so much for doing that. It just means so much to the people that need prayers when they need them. It makes such a difference. So I just want to thank you for that. Okay, everyone, have a good rest of the weekend, and I will see you for on Monday for Ladies' Night. It will be right here on Intuitiview. Okay. All right. See you later. Bye.